Now it's time to cut through the clutter and noise with one of the South's most recognized voices.
Just saying.
This is Just Sayin with Jason Scarborough.
Jason, what's up, brother?
You may not always agree with him, but he's just saying. Now let's get to it with the man, the myth, the legend. Well, most days. Here's Jason Scarborough.
Well, off we go with Just Saying for this week's edition. We've been away for a couple of weeks. Sorry about that. But we're back. We're back this time around. Hope you guys are doing well. No matter where you're listening, whether it's Amazon Music, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, could be the TuneIn Radio app, could be on a variety of different. I think we're in Google Podcasts, which I guess is, well, you can hear the appearance from my dog in the background. I don't know if I told you guys on the last podcast that I got a dog. I think we were away for a year. I was kind of updating you guys on what was going on in my life personally, professionally. One of those things personally is I got a chocolate lab named Sam who has just been on making an appearance on this podcast. So you might hear him throughout the show as he's walking around here in the studio trying to figure out what I'm doing. So Sam, the chocolate lab, 10 months old. Let's just talk about what all comes with owning a dog before we get started. And I'll let you know who's on the show here in a second. But for you folks who have pets, you're really going to connect with this as Sam continues to jump around in the background. Hey, take that in there, buddy. Thanks. So I had no idea that taking a pet to the vet was practically like a mortgage loan, basically, or donating part of your body. That didn't sound right. Donating a kidney, pancreas, I don't know. It just seems like no one prepares you for how much it's going to cost when you take your dog or your cat or whatever animal to the vet. So Monday morning, we get up, and Sam's hobbling around. Now, he's an 85-pound, I guess he's around 85 pounds. He's only 10 months. He will be a year old on November 13th. So he's a big dog. Chocolate labs typically are big dogs. So he's hobbling around, is holding up his right paw, just not doing well at all, just walking around. Of course, you can hear him. He's doing fine now. He's chewing on a bone in the background. He's hobbling around, holding up his front paw. I didn't know what to do. I'm kind of freaking out a little bit. I'm thinking the worst because that's just how my mind works when it comes to these situations. It's terrible to be that way, but that's just how my mind works. So decided to take him into the vet, and they said, hey, we're going to have to do x-rays. We're going to have to probably sedate him in order to do the x-rays. Wasn't crazy about that. And we'll check it out. You know, it's going to take some time. You can, run an errand, whatever you need to do, about 45 minutes. Okay, no problem. So thankfully, the vet is right here by my house, which is also where my mini studio is, where I'm recording now. So they say, go run an errand, 30 to 45 minutes, no problem. So I run, come to the house, get a sandwich, check a couple emails, come back. And they said, hey, he's still kind of out of it from the sedation, and doctor will be in a minute, or the vet, to talk to you. So while we're waiting for Sam to kind of come to and kind of wake up from the sedation and the doctor to come in to see me, or the vet, they said, we can go ahead and check you out. I said, okay. The bill, let me put it like this. Well, it was $500. $500, over $500 to be specific. And talking to people who own dogs after that this week, they're like, oh yeah, that's totally normal. I'm like, why is this normal, and why did no one tell me that this was coming? $500. They sent him home with some medicine to help with inflammation and pain, which the next day after I took him to the vet, of course, he was fine. Ready to play fetch, ready to run around, which the vet recommended, no strenuous activity like fetch, which he likes to do about 30 times a day. None of that for a couple of weeks. Well, that's going to be impossible with this dog. And if you've got dogs, if they've got something that they love to do, keeping them from doing that for 2 weeks is virtually impossible. Well, you got to do it, Jason. It's just like having a child. This is what one person told me. It's just like having a child. You got to do what you got to do and what's best for them in the long run. I get that. But man, this dog loves to fetch. He keeps bringing the ball to me that he likes to play fetch with, and he'll just place it down on the patio ottoman that we've got on the back patio there and just stare at me. Or he'll bring it in the house, come up to me. I can be sitting in the recliner, be sitting at the work desk in here in the office, and he's going to put that ball in my lap and just sit down and stare at me like, hey, I want to throw this thing. And it's so hard to tell him no because he needs to not do that for a few days. So I said, well, we'll give it a few more days, a couple more days, maybe through the weekend. And then if he's not, he hasn't been lipping, he's fine. So basically, I think I spent $500 just to rule out that it wasn't anything serious, but that's what we do for our pets, right? Gracious alive. Why didn't any of you guys tell me this, though? My gosh. I looked at the girl and I said, are you serious? And she was kind of surprised by the bill, I think, too. And she was like, yeah, serious. And I'm like, come on, really? I appreciate a good prank. I appreciate a good prank on me, believe it or not, and I appreciate giving a good prank. So I'm looking for Ashton Kutcher to, renew the show Punk'd. I'm waiting for him to like drop out of the ceiling or come up from behind the desk at you or something like that. Nope. $500. So yeah, some things that I wanted to do around the house, and I'm going to have to move some stuff around apparently now. So, but that's what we do for our pets. We're going to ask Coach Howell. He's coming on in a little bit. Coach Max Howell is going to join us on the KDMC guest line. He's got a pet cat. I'm going to ask him about his pet cat. What's his pet cat's name? I always have trouble with it. Grady. I won't remember it, but when we interview, I won't. I can go ahead and tell you. I always screw that name up, but we love our pets, don't we? So that's been my week. I don't know what your week has been like, but if you're like most people, you enjoy college football. And let me just tell you right now, in Mississippi, the weather is phenomenal. We've got our first cool snap, as we like to call it, cool snap. Why do we call it a snap? I don't know. But our first cold weather or cooler weather, significant cooler weather is probably a better way to put it, that has come in this week, and it has just been absolutely spectacular. Sunny, breezy. Sounds like a commercial. Sunny, breezy, beautiful cover girl. Anyway, why do I even know that? Sunny, breezy, just phenomenal weather. And so you're thinking about college football if you're like me. We are sports heavy this time of year just because, that's my background. If you've, looked up on our website and followed me for any period of time, that's just our background. So we're getting ready for college football, big weekend. Gosh, just so much going on in college football. And this will be a college football heavy show. We have to pay heed to that. So maybe going to put on a brisket. Gosh, Saturday morning, you could start at 11 o'clock with Ole Miss, Kentucky. Top 15 matchup. Beautiful weather. Thinking about putting a brisket on. Literally, you could start at 11 o'clock Saturday in the morning and go till 11 p.m. at night. You can feel your day, your entire 12 hours with college football. It's beautiful. So, going to be beautiful weather. Hope you guys are planning something fun this weekend, and hope you will enjoy your weekend as my dog is barking in the background. Again, Sam makes an appearance on the podcast. Real quick, want to extend our prayers and thoughts to those in Florida that are experiencing the hurricane moving on to shore and moving through. Just want to express our prayers and thoughts to those folks. Having been through hurricanes and tornadoes here in Mississippi, I certainly can connect with what those people are going through, and it is not fun. It is not fun at all. It's scary. It's terrifying. And so definitely praying for those in the path of the storm in Florida. And as the storm moves on to shore and continues to move inland. So our prayers and thoughts are with those in Florida and throughout the Southeast and the rest of the country that will have to encounter the storm as it continues to make its path inland. So just wanted to get that out there. We're having great weather here in Mississippi, but certainly, our thoughts are with those in Florida. So, and those that are going to, again, be in the path of the storm. These things always move inland, and you got to be ready for it. So Let's set up the show for you. Let's see, Max Howell. We told you Coach Howell was going to join us here in just a couple of minutes, and he's going to break down this weekend's matchups in the SEC in college football. So he'll be hanging out with us. Also, we're going to talk to Brad Logan with 247 Sports. He will be at the Ole Miss Kentucky game this Saturday. He'll break down what has to happen for Ole Miss to win. Okay, and there's a lot that has to happen for Ole Miss to win. Kentucky, a very good football team, should be one of the better matchups of the day. Brad will break that down for us here in just a little bit. Blake Levine, sports director with WJTV Newschannel 12 here in Jackson, Mississippi. We are based here in the Magnolia State. Blake will join us and talk about what his view is on where the two programs that reside in the SEC, that reside here in Mississippi, Mississippi State and Ole Miss, where are those programs headed? And are they headed there with the head coach that's currently occupying that office? So Blake's got some opinions on that. He'll break down his viewpoint on where the programs are going and what the expectations should be as they move forward throughout this season. Blake will break that down for us. And our good friend John Ross Myers, he's going to join us. We have a big announcement. John Ross is with the Mississippi Sports Network and the Myers Group, and so we'll talk to him about some of the things that they're doing, covering sports, whether it's high school or college. John and his crew, they do a really good job, and he's going to join us, and we've got a major announcement to make. We're really excited about this announcement, and John's going to join us later on in the show to talk about that. So big show lined up for you. I hope you'll stay tuned with us. Again, any tips on taking your dog to the vet, send them my way. Apparently I need to hear them, so. Coach Howell coming up next. Thanks for hanging out with us here on Just Saying. We take a break, come back with more on the Spirit Media Network.
Our community deserves a healthcare system that is committed to your care and prepared to serve you in every phase of your life. At King's Daughters Medical Center, we're ready to care for every patient who needs us, when they need us. We work around the clock to ensure that when that time comes, you get safe and reliable medical care, because our focus is on you. And we are ready to give you personal, exceptional care. King's Daughters Medical Center, caring for our community like no one else can.
Have a topic you'd like discussed on Just Saying? Shoot Jason an email. It's really that simple. Jason@spiritmedianet.com. You never know when your topic or even you may make an appearance on the show. Now, let's roll on here on Just Saying.
And we welcome in our first guest here on Just Saying. We told you we had a loaded show today, and who else are we going to start the show with here on the KDMC guest line? I mean, such a big weekend. I mean, you could say it's a big weekend in college football, but it's really, is it Separation Saturday for the SEC? It's at least one of those weekends coming up this weekend. Talking college football, we got to bring in our good friend. We just call him Coach. He's Coach Max Howell joining us on the KDMC guest line. Coach, it has been quite a while since we've been able to do one of these. Always good to catch up with you.
Thank you, Jason, so much. It is. Once the season's now, what we in the fifth week, I think there'll be some separation coming up this weekend. Really some pretty good ball games. The first 2 or 3 weeks, as we all know, in the Southeastern Conference, usually warm-up games that, coaches are looking for the starting lineup and get the quarterback a little experience and all. But here we are sitting here in the fifth week, and I know Ole Miss has got, they're facing a very good team in Kentucky. And, of course, we got other situations that's developed around the state, such as LSU going to Auburn. So I'll be anxious to talk about that.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into the schedule, obviously, but before we did, has anything stood out this year that maybe surprises you here as we go into week 5? Anything surprised you in college football? I mean, or specifically to the SEC? Has anything stood out, made you go, wow, I didn't see that coming?
Yeah, 2 things. One, Georgia. To me, Georgia's better than they were last year when they won the national championship. I think the offense is much more polished. Of course, they got a 6-year quarterback plan, but they've got the rest of the pieces that go with that. I think Coach Monk has done a really good job with that offense, and I think it's going to pay dividends for them. And the other big surprise, and it's probably just me in this, but having coached at 2 different levels, this part of the country at the college level, watching what Napier did in Louisiana as opposed to what he was expected to do at Florida. To jump out there and beat Utah in that opening ball game. Utah was in the top 10. But, those really, to dig into it, really should have been a surprise. And the fact is that they worked all spring and all 2 days for that one game. They come back the next week and, didn't look too good against South Florida, but they were polishing for Tennessee. But I thought they played well. I thought he did a really good job with Richardson, the quarterback, and he got the most out of him. I think that really surprised. I thought Tennessee would win probably by 2 or 3 touchdowns at least, but that didn't happen. So that's off the game. The Gators need to be strong to give Georgia a little competition over there.
Yeah, the Gators take a break this weekend, some non-conference football. Let's look at the slate. I want to look specifically at the SEC games. So 5 of the 7 games this weekend that involve SEC teams are SEC matchups. First, you start off with number 7 Kentucky going to number 14 Ole Miss. Depending on what poll you look at, that some polls have Ole Miss at 11 and Kentucky at 8. Then you've got Alabama going to Arkansas. That's the 2:30 kick on CBS. Mississippi State will host number 17 Texas A&M, a 3 o'clock kick. That's always an interesting matchup. Then you've got LSU Auburn. I know this is a game that you wanted to dive into a little bit. And then Georgia at Missouri. Out of those matchups, there's some pretty good matchups there. Which one stands out to you the most?
I think the best matchup's going to be Ole Miss and Kentucky. Mm-hmm. I can just about pick the rest of them apart pretty well. I think Coach Kipp has done a good job, bringing his quarterback along. I think that was a big if with him, particularly in that style of offense that he runs. I think they've done a good job bringing that together. We know what Kentucky's going to be, but Kentucky's been playing, with one hand behind their back. They hadn't had Rodriguez, probably the best running back in the Southeastern Conference. This will be his first game back on the road. We talked a little bit about that this morning, Jason. The fact is I look for him to get, try to get 20, 25 snaps, but you can't get game condition unless you're in a ball game. Practice won't get that for you. So I think if he can get 10 or 12 quality snaps, I think he'll be effective. Once you get past that, you get him in the fourth quarter, they're still trying to run him. Ole Miss's defense is better than it has been. I think his legs will give out on him. And I think the line opened up at 6. And I told you, I thought it'd probably drop to 3. It'll be a close ball game. I like Ole Miss at home. Maybe by a field goal.
Tight game it was last time these two teams got together. A missed extra point was the difference. That was Lane Kiffin's first SEC win, so it'll be interesting to see what this game has in store for us this weekend. Alabama-Arkansas, that one could be sneaky good. I think a lot of people kind of dropped off the Arkansas bandwagon after last week, but this is still a very physical team. Going to Arkansas is a tough place to play, but hey, the guy in Tuscaloosa, the head coach over there, he's used to big games, right? So how do you see this one turning out?
Well, look, had you rather had to play like Arkansas did, as hard as they did, and then still lose against a strong, or play like Alabama did and score the 55th point with less than 20 seconds to go? I believe Alabama will be almost completely rested. Where I don't know about Arkansas. Arkansas had to fight like crazy, to stay in the ball game, and they did. Hats off to them. I like the line at that one. I think opened up 17 this morning. So Alabama wins that probably, and I think they probably cover as well. Alabama still is not probably hitting on all cylinders yet. That wide receiver core has still got a lot of work to do to catch up. But I think they're working on that. How much they utilize that this week, I don't know. They may stick to a pretty solid running game and a short passing game. I don't know. We'll see. Arkansas will have 2 of their defensive backs back, which they've been without for the last 2 or 3 weeks. So I think, it's shaping up to be a pretty good football game. And no doubt it'll be very physical, but I think you almost have to go with Alabama in that win.
I want to go back to the Arkansas A&M game for a second because we were talking about that this morning. Have you ever seen some of the things that happened in that Arkansas A&M game? Like KJ Jefferson tries to turn into Superman from the 5-yard line. That play turns out the way that it did. The doink off the top of the goalpost to end the game, basically. I mean, that was bananas, but it seems like that's what happens when A&M and Jimbo Fisher take the field, right?
Yeah, the only other difference I think they probably do move that game to the last Saturday in October. Halloween may have something to do with that. I don't know. Now, I'm not from New Orleans, and voodoo doesn't matter much to me. But you're right. Something unusual usually happens in that game, and it did on Saturday. to say the least.
He's Coach Max Howell, good friend of the program, good friend of the Spirit Media Network, joining us on the KDMC guest line. We are driven by MDOT. Download the MDOT Game Day app today to get you to your game day destination. A lot of people are hopefully going to be using that app this weekend, traveling up to Oxford and Starkville and down to Baton Rouge. I'm going to come back to that game. I'm going to skip ahead because we got a lot to unpack with LSU and Auburn, but Georgia and Missouri, there's not much to talk about there, right? I mean, Missouri basically, gave that game to Auburn last weekend. I think that was much to the chagrin of some of the brass at Auburn, but Missouri, they have no chance against Georgia, right?
You know, it's hard to say that you never have a chance because you do play, but you're right. I mean, we watched the ball game very closely, and I did, but against Auburn, and Auburn's not a very strong football team, particularly up front from the offense. But by the way, Auburn's first-team center is out now. That's the second first-string center that they've lost for the season. He dislocated his elbow and be operated on in the morning, so he's out. So Auburn, that's another story. But bottom line is Missouri, they've got a long way to go. They're going to Athens to play Georgia right now in the midst of another championship run. I'll be interested to see. Now, Georgia did not play very well against Kent State last week. I don't know what, they've watched the tapes and all. We've talked about this before. Probably the toughest challenge some of these guys have, particularly when you're running for championships, particularly we talk about Georgia and Alabama as of recent, getting those kids to play at a high level every week, that's your challenge. And of course, I don't think you want to play them at a high level every week. You got to get them, but you got to know when to get them up and when not. I think that one game we've already talked about, Arkansas, Coach Pittman's going to have a challenge getting his kids other than to play in Alabama, and they are playing at home. But physically, those kids are still worn out. Alabama played Vanderbilt, and, they didn't even have to take a nap Sunday afternoon. They're ready to go back to practice. And those little things like that will make a difference in your game preparation. Now, when the whistle blows on Saturday afternoon and all of them get on the field, you forget about pep talks and all that stuff. You better be prepared to play. That's what happens between Monday and Thursday every week.
All right, so the LSU-Auburn game, that's something you and I were talking about earlier this morning. LSU, they've shown some improvement. That was a good bounce-back game against Mississippi State, a non-conference win last week. Auburn, we all know the story. It's almost like Auburn is waiting, the brass at Auburn, they're waiting for an excuse to get rid of Harsin. That's at least the feeling around the region right now, is they're just waiting for the opportunity. They could get their opportunity Saturday night, right? Because LSU should be in the catbird seat in terms of being favored in this game, and I expect LSU to win. Am I wrong on that?
No, I think you are. I think Brian Kelly will have them playing at a higher level than they played before. I think they'll get better. My point is, and the talent level is so much different. When it gets right down to it, you go back and look at the defensive front for LSU versus the offensive front for Auburn. They rather in the shotgun, rather than line that quarterback up at 6 yards, they better put him at 10 because make those guys have to run further to get to him because they're gonna be in the backfield much as the quarterback is, in my opinion, right now. They just, it's just. I read a great statement the other day. A friend of mine that wrote an article said. He captained Arnold. He said it looked like Brian Harsin was coaching for a buyout, and that's what it looks like to me too.
Yeah, that thing could get pretty gnarly Saturday night on the Plains. I mean, that could be a scene that you write a movie. I mean, a movie script couldn't write it better than that in terms of how gnarly it could get. So I want to go back to the coaches here in Mississippi, because you and I have had a lot of discussions about the respective SEC schools here in Mississippi and their head coaches, Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss, Mike Leach at Mississippi State. I want to start with Lane. There were a lot of people every time that there's a coaching job that's open, Lane's name comes up, but he was pretty clear about it before the season. That opening week press conference, he said, look, I needed Ole Miss and Oxford more than Ole Miss and Oxford needed me. That's a pretty strong statement for him to make. He seems to be comfortable in Oxford, seems to have made a home there, and seems like he's not content until he builds a winner there in Oxford before he leaves. Is that crazy to think that?
No, I think you're right. I think what he's done, he's elevated himself now because of his personal life and because of his coaching ability on the field and because of win losses. he's elevated in his salary. Obviously, he's been rewarded with that. He's elevated himself. You know, if he leaves Ole Miss, it's going to have to be for $8 or $9 million a year. Because they've already got him up to 7.5, which I think's worth it. He's doing what has to be done at a school like Ole Miss, and which he got 10 wins last year. You know, if that thing can settle down and keeps improving, I think he's got a great chance to get at least 8 or 9 this year, maybe more. I don't know. But the fact is, look, when you bring in as many kids as he brought in through the portal, 28, I believe, I read, and you're still able to bring that together as a football team. Now, even in the 42-0 win in Tech, you saw him still coaching in the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was still bringing kids together and, you know, getting them ready to play. And I think that's the mark of a good football coach. And I think this past week, I think in all essence for whatever people want to think about the Tulsa team, adequate competition, but they had their eyes looking to this Kentucky game. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I look for that to be a really, really good football game. And I think it's all because of the leadership that Lane Kiffin's put in place there.
Now, in Starkville, when you look at Mike Leach, it seems like, depending on who you ask within the fan base in Starkville, as my dog Sam makes an appearance on the podcast, you look at that situation in Starkville, it appears that, I don't know, it just depends on who you talk to. For every 2 state fans you talk to, one fan seems to be happy with everything, and then you talk to the next fan, and he's ready for them to get rid of Leach and everyone. So the year 3 is always the year under Coach Mike Leach where things come together. But like we've talked about before, this is the SEC. This is not the Pac-12 or the Big 12. It's different here. So, I mean, how do both sides win, I guess? I know that's a broad question, but how do both sides win in this situation? And does Mike Leach ever make it click there in Starkville the way that the fan base wants him to?
Well, the only way he's going to click is to win football games. And his system, and we talked a little bit about that earlier, they said his system is different than every other system. His system kind of is a modified NFL combination with, an all-out air raid passing game. You know, they're going to throw the spot. They've been very accurate with that. They're going to outscore you. They're adequate on defense, but they're going to try to get 40-plus points. They know that, odds are they can win most ball games that way. And all you got to do is look at the stats. I remember very vividly last year they lost the ball game, and I think they threw 44, 45 times for over 400 yards and still lost the game because the number of completions were like 8.5 yards per catch. Well, if you put that on the tape, 8.5 yards is about where the linebackers are going to be in a zone defense when the quarterback drops back. That from where he's throwing the ball to the wide receiver catch. That's what happens. He goes to a spot, that receiver has to be there. Now, what's different about that for those fans, they used to, throwing the ball down the field, that's one thing. But a decent running game, a great kicking game, the complete game, I think is what people that are anti-Mike Leach wants to see. And what they see is like an air raid out there. Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. The bottom line doesn't say how you get there. Bottom line says wins and losses. He's got his fair share up to now in building this program. I still think in this league, if he wins 7 ball games this year, they're going to have a good year.
All right, so before I let you get out of here, Coach Max Howell joining us on the KDMC guest line. Where do you stand on the expansion of the college football playoff? Everyone has an opinion. What's yours?
Well, I think what's happening. The 12-team playoff is going to be a result of the 20 to 24 league conferences. If that makes sense, it makes sense by the fact each conference needs to get more than 1 or 2 teams in, and I think that's what's going to happen. Look, Jay, it's all about the money. It's all about the dividend split up in championship playoff. This past year, the SEC split up $54 million. Now, by the way, that's 15 slots at 54 million because the conference gets the same share as either the teams do. They've already projected when Oklahoma and Texas come to the league, that number's going to jump. We'll just use the 54 from 54 to 65 to 90 over the next 3 years per school. So you can't argue with that, mainly because more schools get a pro rata share of the big pot. first and foremost. And second is those schools are able then to use that money to support the other programs at the university and the college level.
So what are you cooking Saturday? I lied. That's not my last question. That's my last question. What are you cooking Saturday? Because look, let me explain to our listeners. You watch football by yourself. Like, you do not want anyone bothering you. You're not one of these people that I'm going to get 10 or 15 people together. We're going to have a college football watch party. Nope. You watch all the games, and when I say all the games, I mean all the SEC games by yourself. So what are you cooking for? What's your pet cat's name now?
Grady is my pet cat.
Okay, so you and Grady. Okay, so you got a cat now, Grady. And so what are you and Grady? What are y'all eating on come Saturday?
Listen, Grady is a high-end bred feral cat. I got him out of the woods, by the way. That's been my biggest challenge, is to try to domesticate a feral. And if you don't believe it, I have to wear long-sleeve shirts when I'm out because it cuts me up so bad. People think I'm in a briar patch. But we're having fun with it. And I treat him just like he's, what he's supposed to be. I'll cook him a steak, and I'll probably do the grill situation. I'll pan fry it for him. He likes it medium rare, so I'll pan fry, inch and a quarter, and just flip it a couple of times. But what he really likes is that buttery, creamy sauce on top of it. He'll lick that thing. I let the fryer dry too often, and he'll lick the fryer clean on top of that. Yeah, that's what we'll do. I'll have me a small steak, make a steak sandwich out of it. Probably just have some chips or potato or mashed potato with it, one or the other. And, but we'll have a nice dessert. Now, most cats don't like. I like chocolate ice cream because chocolate's not very good for animals.
There you go.
So I buy him a half a gallon of vanilla, and I'll put it. I just put 10 scoops in a bowl, and while I'm watching the game, he'll be over there, sitting. He's got a little stool right next to my chair, and he's up on that stool. I put the bowl on the top step, and he'll sleep on the second. He'll reach up there and lick the bowl clean while I watch the ball game.
Oh, I know it's good. It's going to be a fun Saturday. That's what I was telling my neighbor the other night. I was like, man, you could, literally start at 11 a.m. with Ole Miss, Kentucky, and go all the way to 10 or 11 at night with the games that are on. Some great matchups Saturday. Look forward to catching up with you later on in the year, and always appreciate your time, Coach, and look forward to doing it again.
Jason, anytime. Just give me a call. Love being on with you.
He's Coach Max Howell. We just call him Coach. Always appreciate his insight here on Just Sayin'. As we'll take a break, come back with so much more right here on the Spirit Media Network.
Hey sports fans, this football season, MDOT wants to ensure you get to your game day destination safely. So before you hit the road to watch your favorite team, be sure to download the MDOT Traffic app. The MDOT Traffic app is free for both Apple and Android devices. And remember to drive smart on the way to the game. That means buckling up, obeying the speed limit, and avoiding distracted driving, especially when traveling in work zones. For more information, follow at Mississippi DOT on Facebook and Twitter.
Just Sayin' is presented by King's Daughters Medical Center, providing quality care in a Christian environment. Visit kdmc.org to learn more about the KDMC touch in caring for you and your family. Now, here's Jason.
All right, we continue on here on Just Sayin'. Thanks for joining us wherever you're listening, whether it's Amazon Music. Really happy about being in the podcast section there with Amazon Music, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, just a number of places. So we appreciate you listening. Wherever you've got us downloaded, wherever you're listening to us, we appreciate it. It's been a while since we've been able to chit-chat. Saw them this summer, see them here and there around the SEC, and, of course, saw them this summer. But Brad Logan joins us on the KDMC guest line, 247 Sports. And it's been kind of a fun time for Ole Miss fans here in the last, I guess you could say, 6 to 8 months. It's been a fun ride. Football season off to a good start. Yeah, everything's coming up roses right now for Ole Miss.
I think a lot of people, Jason, thanks for having me on, by the way. Good to hear from you. I think everybody's still a little punch drunk off the college baseball national championship. The very first one in a Major 3 sport. It's just a situation where Ole Miss is kind of was left for dead, not to rehash the baseball season, but just things were not looking well, and then all of a sudden they turn around and get hot and win it all. So football season is kind of a question mark. I think right now they haven't really played anybody, but yeah, everybody's excited about baseball. You know, baseball's kind of getting started, and football season is undefeated, but it's kind of an unsettling undefeated, if I could say.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that because everyone they're excited about football being undefeated, like you said, but it's this cautious optimism. As long as you've got Lane Kiffin on the sideline wearing those headsets, you've got a chance. You got a fighting chance in every game, but there's still just a lot of cautious optimism, particularly with Kentucky rolling in.
Yeah, I think the cautious is coming from the fact that Ole Miss hasn't played anybody. And, you know, I think we realized just how bad Georgia Tech was. You know, Ole Miss won that game handily, but, you know, the coach fired, and, you know, you go all over the stats about how terrible the coach Jeff Collins was. But you look back over, you know, thinking that maybe Troy may be the best team or Tulsa that Ole Miss to stay. And, you know, we'll see how good Tulsa is. You know, Troy took App State to the wire, but at the end of the day, that's a Sun Belt team, you know, and Tulsa's an American Conference team. Those are two teams that Ole Miss should, and they did win. But, you know, last week, Jason, we could go over just how poorly offensively, you know, Ole Miss played. I mean, I could make excuses about how this team's kind of tired of playing nobody, and, you know, there was really nobody in the stands. And it's kind of a deal to where it was time for Ole Miss to play somebody. And I don't think he could have waited another week to play nobody. But the good news is Ole Miss had this preseason schedule, and I call it a preseason schedule because it's really, you know, unfair to call it a regular schedule because their first, I guess, 4 or 5 games were against nobody. But the good news for Ole Miss is it gave an opportunity to kind of solidify that quarterback spot with Jackson Dart at quarterback, and now Luke Altmaier is notably the backup quarterback. It also gave an opportunity for all these transfers like a Zach Evans. You look at wide receivers, Jalen Robinson, Troy Brown on that defensive side of the ball, and Isheem Young. All those transfers a chance to gel. And so if they're able to do that for the first couple of games, you would hope things to kind of come together in the 25% into the season, so to speak. As it's a big one Saturday against Kentucky. Kentucky's a good team. Mark Stoops probably learned a lot from watching that Troy defense about how to force Ole Miss to throw the ball down the field. I think Ole Miss is going to come in as one of the top rushing attacks in the country, and they're going to try to establish a run. I guarantee Mark Stoops is going to try to stop that. We haven't seen Jackson Dart be incredibly – well, he just hasn't been very good throwing the football so far. We've seen it in spurts, but we haven't seen a complete game of Jackson Dart throwing the football. I think Kentucky's going to make Ole Miss throw the football on Saturday.
Yeah, I was about to talk about the rushing attack that Ole Miss has had this year. So it's been a little bit of a change because we've been so accustomed to Ole Miss being so balanced on offense. But, you know, we shouldn't be surprised that they have such a lethal rushing attack because they've been tops or near the top of the SEC the last couple of years under Lane Kiffin. But being number 4 nationally in rushing offense, I mean, what have you seen from – I don't want to just say the running backs, but the offensive line, the wide receivers are blocking well. It's a concerted effort that allows Judkins and Evans and Bentley and all of these backs to have these big days that they've had so far. What have you been most impressed with this Ole Miss rushing attack?
Yeah, and I've been on a number of shows, and I said 90% of the offense in regards to rushing is no longer there. I think I'm going to say more closer to the lines of 100% of the offense is no longer there because – you know, you have to account for Matt Corral, did a lot of rushing too, and he's gone. Your top 3 running backs are gone. The only running back that came back was Kentrell Bullock. So, you know, leaving the Superdome, I think I probably told you this. I've told everybody that would listen. I was asking myself, and I was actually leaving with Brett Northford, the Ole Miss Radio Network, and I said, who's going to run the ball next year? Because it's not Kentrell Bullock. And who's going to play quarterback? Is it going to be Luke Altmaier? So a lot of unanswered questions. And then now I think we've learned that no one other than maybe Lane Kiffin realized just how good Quinshon Judkins was going to be. You know, the talented freshman out of the state of Alabama somehow got out of the grips of Auburn and Alabama and is a preeminent running back in the Southeastern Conference. And then all of a sudden you start throwing in Zach Evans and Ulysses Bentley the fourth, those 2 transfers, and of course Zach Evans, a former 5-star running back out of TCU. So at this point, you know, where's everything at? Well, if you fast forward a little bit, you look at where Ole Miss is right now. Zach Evans is dealing with a bit of a hip corner. He may not play. Ulysses Bentley definitely is not going to play because of a hand injury. So then you're looking at, is there opportunity where it's just the Judkins show on Saturday along with maybe a Bullock, maybe a Woolyard, the guy that's kind of been there for a while, the seasoned veteran. I've been told that Zach Evans is probably going to play. And a lot of people have been giving the offensive line a hard time. And a lot of that is because of the hurries that Jackson Dart has been under. I don't think people are talking about the rushing of the offensive line in regards to the blocking, because I think the offensive line's done a great job blocking for all the running plays. It's been a problem has been Jackson Dart being flushed in the pocket. They've really struggled pass blocking, and they've really struggled snapping the football back. In fact, one of the snaps got Luke Altmaier hurt. That's what sidelined him last week against Tulsa for not being able to play at all. But I think just from the rushing attack, it was Lane Kiffin going to the portal, Lane Kiffin recruiting high school players that he's done so well with Kentucky-Ole Bullet. But I think more than anything, the offensive line's not getting near the credit it's gotten for opening the holes that they have. I think there's a couple of videos that I tweeted out. You know, you or I could have ran through those holes. I mean, they were huge holes. And so I just think that's something that Ole Miss fans are not talking enough about, that offensive front rushing the football.
He's Brad Logan, 247 Sports, also a contributor to the Believe podcast, the Ole Miss Believe podcast. Defensively, I think Ole Miss deserves some credit as well. As you know, you look at that Tulsa game, there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, you gave up 27 points to Tulsa or whatever it was. True, but Tulsa was the top passing offense coming into last weekend. I think they kind of threw Ole Miss for a loop when they started running the football more than Ole Miss was probably ready for. I think this defense deserves some credit too, and they're going to have some big moments Saturday if they're going to pull off the win against Kentucky. What are the keys to victory for this Ole Miss defense Saturday against Kentucky?
Well, they need J.J. McGee's to play. He's been in a walking boot, and so he's kind of questionable. The talented transfer out of Auburn, and they need him to play. And I think it's the front. Secondly, if you look at where Ole Miss is really strong, it's in the defensive backfield. A.J. Finley, a senior on this team, has done a great job leading that backfield. Davison Igbinosun, a talented freshman out of New Jersey, has played really well. Otis Reese, obviously, a transfer out of Georgia. Ishim Young, I could go on. And the shocker about all this is Lane Kiffin said before the season started, he was really worried about the linebacker play. Well, linebacker's actually been a pretty strong suit. When you look at Troy Brown, has come in and played really well. Corey Coleman, someone that's been injured, that we'll have to see how that works out on Saturday. Coleman's dealing with a leg injury. I think Ole Miss fans are hoping that he plays. And last I checked, he was questionable. So if you've got a Troy Brown that's disqualified for the first half because of a targeting call, pending an SEC review, he's going to miss the first half of Kentucky. So if Coleman doesn't play linebacker, then who's going to go at linebacker? Then you start talking about maybe walking some different DBs up, or you're going with Keys, you're going with Ashante Sistrunk just to try to get to the second half. But the defensive line needs McGee to play. I mean, Cedric Johnson has been really good, but we haven't seen him in an exclusive role. We haven't seen him make those plays that we've seen him make in the past. Now, he had a good game against Georgia Tech, but I think you have to look at the opponent there. He blocked the punt, had a couple of hurries, had a couple of sacks, I think. But Cedric Johnson needs to take a leadership role in that defensive front. But linebacker is definitely an area of concern, specifically in the first half on Saturday against Kentucky.
I'll ask you, since I've got you on, and I don't want to come in sideways on this, but there's been a lot of conversation about the fans. Are they staying? Are they not staying? You know, where do you stand on this? You know, Lane has been very vocal about the fan base wanting them to stay. Then you've had a lot of fans come out and say, well, if you didn't put the students in the sun, this and that and the other. There's been a lot of back and forth and a lot to be made about just the fan situation at Ole Miss. I mean, what do you make of it? Who's right? Who's wrong? Are you indifferent to it? I mean, where do you stand on it?
Well, there's no doubt, Jason, in the second half, we watched not just the student section, the entire stadium empty out. You know, there was only probably, 50% capacity in that stadium, maybe less in the second half. There's no doubt it was a problem, and it doesn't help. And this goes back on the Ole Miss administration. You know, you love getting wins as an Ole Miss fan, but, you know, you want to be able to play teams with a pulse. And Ole Miss fans knew they were coming to the stadium this week against Kentucky, so they took Tulsa off. That's just what happened. And it was a very poor crowd. It was blazing hot. And it's a combination of a lot of things, Jason. It's a combination of ESPN money forcing you to play at certain times during the day. We're all back in the day, you know, we talk about that. If it was a big conference game or something, if it wasn't a 2 o'clock game, there were only 2 other slots. There's 11 o'clock JP game, and then there was a 6 o'clock ESPN game. The rest of the time, you could play when you wanted to. It was up to the universities. They could kind of pick when they wanted. So if this Tulsa game had been like a normal non-con game in September, it was going to be a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock game, and there would have been a nice 45, 50,000 sitting there, not baking in the sun. That north end zone is a problem. It is an absolute problem to this administration, and they need to fix it. Even if you move the students, you got to sell season tickets. You can't if you put the visitors there, okay. How many visitors for the most part? 1,200, 3,000? I don't know. So it's absolutely a problem. And it's not just the north end zone, but it was the entire stadium. And, Lane Kiffin came out, and I think a lot of that's just gamesmanship, just trying to get people into the stands. But there's no doubt. I mean, I took a picture at the end of the game. I mean, there were about 100 students, we could argue about, we could talk about how much money it costs to come to the games. We could talk about, how easy it is to sit at home. I think all of that is kind of put into one. And Ole Miss has to find a solution. And I think Ole Miss as a collective, that includes Lane Kiffin, that includes the fans, that includes Keith Carter, that includes ESPN. They've got to fix it. And I don't know what the answer is, but it is absolutely a problem.
Hopefully it's not going to be a problem Saturday. Hopefully it's a packed house. Should be a phenomenal game.
No, it's sold out.
Yeah, I mean, well, you know how that goes. I mean, it's sold out, but I mean, how many people are going to hang around in the Grove? That's been a problem. How many folks are hanging on to their tickets but still staying outside? I know that's been something else that some of the older fan base has been talking about. Sure, it can show that it's sold out, but you actually have to go into the stadium and present your ticket and get in the seats, get in the stands. So I know that's been an issue as well. The Grove is phenomenal and a great tailgate spot, obviously the best in America, but I know that's been a topic of discussion as well. So I'll ask you about on the field. Who do you like? I had to ask you before I let you go.
Yeah, I do. And I think, this game came out, and I checked just a little bit ago. This thing's been bet up to 6.5. I don't see that at all. Ole Miss minus 6.5. It opened it around, I think, 4.5.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely like Kentucky in the points, but I think Ole Miss wins a close one. I'm picking 31-28. But if you told me Kentucky won by, 6 or 7, I wouldn't be surprised at all. This is a really good Kentucky team. I think Ole Miss just gets the nod just because it's at home and they're getting a couple of points there. So I think Ole Miss is probably not showing all their cards in regards to offense. I think we may see some things offensively we haven't seen all year. Charlie Weiss Jr. and Lane Kiffin probably kept some things under their hat. So I expect Ole Miss to come out, and I expect a very, people rip on the crowd, and I get all that. But there's nothing better than a packed house at Vaught Hemingway, and I think it'll be absolutely jam-packed at 11 o'clock because weather's supposed to be great, low 80s, high 70s. You can't beat those temperatures, all sunny. And I expect a great crowd, and I expect a good game.
Hey, tell folks where they can find you on all your different platforms if they want to keep up with everything Ole Miss.
Yeah, right now, the Believe in Ole Miss podcast is something that we do. We're excited about the growth there. The Believe in Ole Miss is the Twitter handle there. Everything is under the Twitter banner of Brad Logan COTE. That's where we distribute all of our content. Of course, that's part of Inside the Rebels, as you talked about, a division of 24/7 Sports at reps247.com. And excited about what we do with WJTV and WREG, both CBS affiliates out of Memphis and Jackson. Our pregame shows are continuing to grow. And really appreciate the opportunity to join you today.
Yeah, always good to talk to you. Keep up the good work, my friend, and hope to see you on the sideline somewhere soon. He's Brad Logan, friend of the program, friend of the Spirit Media Network, does a great job covering all things Ole Miss. Big game this weekend. Rebels and Cats getting it on in Oxford. Appreciate Brad and his time. We'll take a break, come back with so much more right here on the Spirit Media Network.
When you need us, King's Daughters Medical Center is here, right by your side. When you're sick, hurt, or just not certain of what to do, we face those challenges with you, together. Brighter days are here for you and your family. KDMC, caring for our community like no one else can.
Just Sayin is driven by the Mississippi Department of Transportation, reminding you that every day is game day. Download the MDOT smartphone app today and check out the Mississippi roads before heading out to your favorite destination. MDOT, a proud supporter of the Spirit Media Network. Now let's keep Jason in between the ditches with another segment right here on Just Sayin'.
And we roll on here on Just Sayin' on the Spirit Media Network. Glad that you're listening wherever you're listening, whether it's Amazon Music. Really happy about that. Not that I'm on there singing. You don't want to hear that. Not playing the guitar, but we're in the podcast section of Amazon Music. Of course, iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. I think we're still on TuneIn Radio. A number of places you can find us. Of course, our website as well. And so now we welcome into the KDMC guest line our good friend. He is the sports director with WJTV Newschannel 12 in Jackson. Of course, one of our Audibles affiliates, our first, actually, TV affiliate for the show. And we welcome in Blake Levine on the KDMC guest line. I think this is this the first time you and I have been able to do this? I think it is.
Yeah, we've had you on the Sports Zone Saturday show, so I've kind of just been waiting for this.
Oh, you knew it was coming, man. Come on. You knew it was coming. I had to wait on a good weekend. This is a great weekend for football. Between high school football and Mississippi, we've got listeners all over the place. So, yes, we are in the Magnolia State if you're just hearing the show for the first time. Of course, Blake is here by way. How in the world? You and I have talked about this a million times. You're from L.A., and now you're here in the Magnolia State. Crazy. I think Lane Kiffin is following you or vice versa.
I like to mess around that Lane Kiffin's following me, and I know that's not true. But, I was in Los Angeles. He came to USC. I went to Florida, where in Florida he went to FAU. I went to Mississippi. He's now at Mississippi. So just 3 straight stops. So wherever I go next, if I go somewhere next, just know that Lane's coming.
It's crazy how that worked out. And I tell you, the Sports Zone Saturday concept, I so enjoy that. And you guys have kind of added a couple of wrinkles to it this season. And, to go on location and to go through all the checks and the balances that you got to go through to set up for a live shoot. I really don't think folks understand how much goes into that. And not to mention, you're covering high school football on Friday night. So you maybe get, 3-4 hours sleep, and then you're on the road again?
That's right. I mean, this Friday to Saturday, we'll do high school football. I'll probably get home around midnight. I'll probably fall asleep around 1:30, 1 o'clock, and then we got to get up at 4:30, 5 a.m. to go do the 9 a.m. show. And, the production this year is about 3 to 4 times as big as it was last year. And last year we had a great show, and, we Noah, but our resources this year have been greatly improved, and we've done a fantastic show. If you guys ever want to watch, it's on Saturdays every Ole Miss home game.
Yeah, I mean, you guys do a phenomenal job with it. I've been fortunate to join you guys a few times on that show, and it really is. I always try to think outside the box, and I think that's why you and I have gotten along as well as we have so far, because I think you're always trying to think outside the box, too. How can we do, this show is different than anything else in the state, but how can we even think more outside the box? So I love the way that you guys are always trying to think of a different wrinkle, a different way to do things. And that's certainly the case with Sports on Saturday, because it's the only show like it out there. I mean, and you got to take a lot of pride in that.
No, absolutely. And I think we've done a great job, and every week it gets better. So I've been proud of everyone's effort. I know that, you're talking to me, and I'm technically the head of this show. But we've gotten a lot of help, and there's been a lot of people that have made it really good. He's
Blake Levine, sports director with WJTV Newschannel 12 in Jackson. And, you've got some opinions on at least one of the coaches or both of the coaches at the SEC schools here in Mississippi. I'm going to start with Mississippi State. There were a lot of boo birds out after the LSU loss. And that was a game that Mississippi State controlled. They bounced back. Granted, it was against a team that, they should have bounced back against Bowling Green. But still, to bounce back, year 3 is always the year for Mike Leach that things are supposed to start clicking, and you see this vast improvement. But this schedule that Mississippi State has, it's going to be really tough to do against that schedule. How do you measure success for Mississippi State football this year?
Well, coming into the year, I felt like 8 wins was something that would look good for him. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case as of right now, but I think 7-6 would be a nice season. Mm-hmm. But then again, Miss fans aren't happy with that. And that's not, the history of Mississippi State is around that mark. But I think that they, like you said, they want They want more. They want 8. They want 9 wins. And when Ole Miss is winning 9-10 games a year, it's even more of a want from them. And, you know, you brought up the LSU game. I don't think that was as bad of a loss as everyone else does.
Mm-hmm.
LSU has great talent. Whether they think they're a good team or not, they have the talent. Brian Kelly is one of the best coaches in college football. And if we take that Florida State game, and that's what we're going to judge Brian Kelly and LSU on this year, then that's sad, and everyone's sadly mistaken. LSU is going to be a good football team by the end of this year, and everyone's going to look back and go, okay, maybe that loss wasn't as bad as everyone thought it was. So really, they're 3-1. I think that's a fair place for them to be. I think that's what they should have achieved. They've done it. Now the SEC schedule comes. Yeah, it's a tough schedule, but everyone's got to play a tough schedule to some degree.
Right.
It's not like they're the only ones that got to go through this. Everyone's playing on equal standing. Guess what? Vanderbilt's got to play every week, and they don't win a game. You know, everyone's got to play the same schedule. Ole Miss is going to have to play something comparable. It may not be as tough, but I mean, man, Kentucky, number 7 ranked team. I know what we think of Kentucky as a historical program, but they're number 7. That's a tough game. And if they win that and Mississippi State loses to Texas A&M, people will be more upset with the Mississippi State loss than the Ole Miss win, but the rankings are completely different. Texas A&M's the 17th ranked team, not Kentucky.
That's a good point. And I know that you've had opinions on Mike Leach and his, I guess, compatibility. I guess that's a good way to frame it there in Starkville. And so I ask everyone, because I like Mike Leach. He's one of the guys on the roster of guests with Audibles. But, you know, I like Mike Leach. I like his personality. But is he a good fit for Starkville, for Mississippi State? I know it's crazy to ask here in year 3, but that's a question that keeps getting tossed around.
Yeah, well, I got a really strong opinion on this, and I knew you were going to bait me into doing it. No, I can't hold back. I can't help myself. To be honest, he's not a good fit anywhere if he's not winning. The way he, acts, which I don't think is a wrong way to act, he's just a little on the goofier side, and he tends to speak his mind, and that's all good. But if you don't win games, those types of coaches don't last very long. And I said that about Will Hall at Southern Miss, who I think is a great guy. And I think Mike Leach is actually a good person, too. This has nothing to do about them personally. But if you're not going to win games, the exuberance, the wildness to these guys is a tough sell. So if Mike Leach goes 0-3 against Ole Miss and they win 6 games this year, are people happy with that? Are they willing to give him another year? Because Joe Moorhead got fired for less. And I felt like Joe Moorhead was more Starkville than Mike Leach. And everywhere Mike Leach has ever been, there tends to be some type of issues, whether they're severe or not. Obviously at Texas Tech, they were a little more severe. But to me, he's always going to be who he's going to be. He's going to win football games. He's going to have these high ups, and he's going to beat teams that you don't expect. And because they throw the ball 60 times in a game, 70 times again, games, they're going to lose to some teams they shouldn't lose. That's who he's been. It's who he's always been. So that's what you get. So if people are expecting something different from him, then maybe they don't know and they don't have their expectations in line.
Strong opinions from Blake Levine. He's the sports director with WJTV Newschannel 12 here in Jackson, Mississippi. I want to shift to Oxford because that's where you guys will be Saturday. Huge game. Obviously a huge game. And the teams, Ole Miss, I mean, this is a team that you look at how they've been under Lane Kiffin his first 2 seasons coming into this year. They're pretty balanced on offense this year. They lead the SEC in rushing. They've got 2 guys in Judkins and Evans. They're in the top 5 individuals in terms of rushing yards in the SEC. This is going to be an interesting game. Everyone I've talked to, they expect it to come down to the wire as it did a couple of years ago in Lexington. How do you see this game playing out Saturday?
Well, I think Ole Miss is favored by about 6 points. It started out about 4 points. So I think Ole Miss, I don't want to say should, but they could win the game. They are favored to win the game. I was happy that Lane Kiffin finally named a starting quarterback. I feel like it was a little dragged out a little too long, especially because he said he was going to pick one and roll with it. And that was not the case for the first few weeks. Expect Dart to play a little bit better now that he's actually the starter. I got to think that's a tough place for a guy to be, just transferred in. The local kid's right there. They pick him. The pressure that's on him. The team went to the Sugar Bowl last year. I think it was good that he finally named him the starter because in a game like this, you got to have the faith. And I hope, no matter how Dart plays, that he plays all 4 quarters. I would hate for him to be pulled because he struggled in the first half because I think that would put Ole Miss back a few steps. And I think they got to just roll with Dart if they're going to choose him. I'm not sure if that's the right choice or not, and I really don't know because I'm not at practice every day. But whoever you choose, just roll with them. And I think that Ole Miss does win this game. I think it's going to be close. Kentucky's a great team. I think Stoops is one of the most underrated coaches in America. So I just hope that Ole Miss sticks with their guy and just lets it roll.
That's a really good point, and I don't know that that's a point that has been made as much or as well as you just made it. You know, hey, if you're gonna pick this guy, roll with him all 4 quarters, particularly in a game with a top 10 team. Roll with it no matter what. You know, that, to borrow a phrase, ride or die. That's your ride or die no matter what. So, hey, before I let you get out of here, you guys, man, y'all do a really good job with high school football here in the state as well. Your game of the week, I'm going to let you announce it. 2 really good teams here in Mississippi, teams that if you're not from the Magnolia State, you're going to recognize these programs because they typically go out of state to play their first 3 or 4 games of the year. So you guys have a really good one this week for your game of the week.
Yeah, we're going to do Madison Ridgeland Academy and Jackson Prep, and MRA is Madison Ridgeland Academy, and they've been the gold standard of MEIS football the last 3 to 4 years, and they've played teams out of state, they've competed, they've been nationally ranked, they're very impressive. But ultimately, anyone that's from Mississippi, and Jason, you know this, Jackson Prep, if you just take their whole history, is the best MEIS football team historically. They've had 3 coaches in the last 3 years. You know, Ricky Black finally left. The guy last year didn't seem to get along with people consistently enough, so he was let go. And they have a new coach in, Coach Goodwin, who I think's absolutely been fantastic. They're 6-0, and for the first time in about 4 years, if you asked anyone, they would say Jackson Prep's got a shot in this game, because in the past years, I don't think anyone really thought they had a shot in this game, and they were blown out a few times. So this is the first year in a while where people are like, well, I mean, Jackson Prep might win, and I might pick them to win. So I think it's a great game of the week for us, and I think it's a great game of the week for the MEIS to have another team in 6A be competitive, because it's never good when we have leagues and one team dominates it for 3 years straight and there's nobody competitive. We want competition.
Yeah, you got plenty of competition this weekend in college football, particularly the SEC and, of course, high school football here in Mississippi. So you've got a busy weekend. So you'll have your coverage from MRA, Jackson Prep, this Friday night. Then you'll have the OT coming up Friday night. Then you guys travel to Oxford Saturday. And what time are you coming on again? 9 o'clock?
Yeah, 9 a.m. to 10:30. So 2 hours before the game, and then we go until 30 minutes before kickoff. All
right. Where can people find you Saturday if they want to watch Sports Zone Saturday?
WJTV, locally in Jackson, Mississippi. WHLT in Hattiesburg, the Pine Belt area. And then if you're in the Memphis viewing area, you can watch on WREG. So 3 different locations.
And then you got Sports Zone Sunday coming up Sunday.
Jason, you can't forget about Sanderson Farms. We've sold a product about that, so we're doing some Sanderson Farms coverage this weekend as well.
Man, you guys are just spread out everywhere this weekend. How are you gonna pull this off? I mean, that's a lot of places to be.
That's why we get paid the big bucks, but we don't. You know?
Man, I always enjoy catching up with you. I know I'm going to see you on the sideline somewhere soon. We always have great conversations on the sideline. Some that can't make the airwaves. We'll just leave that there. So
yeah. Have you changed your Nebraska license plate back after our trip to Omaha?
I'm telling you, man.
For the whole year.
I'm telling you, man. Look, it was so much fun to see everybody up there, and every day it was just a different roller coaster ride. It felt like, and people don't understand how much of a grind it is to go up there and stay the duration of that tournament. They do such a good job of it, but and with that tournament, but it's a grind. I don't think people understand how much of a grind it is.
Absolutely. And Jason, thank you for having me on.
Yeah, always good to catch up with you. He's Blake Levine. Follow him on WJTV Newschannel 12. I mean, they've got you covered everywhere this coming weekend. Always appreciate Blake and his time. We'll take a break. Come back with more Just Saying on the Spirit Media Network.
The Spirit Media Network is providing coverage of sports, faith, and entertainment like no one else in Mississippi and the Deep South. No other media outlet touches all the bases as we do, from the Friday Night Lights to rubbing shoulders with the biggest names in college athletics. Be sure to follow us on our multiple platforms, including Facebook, Twitter, our YouTube channel, and by downloading our Roku/Smart TV channel, Spirit Live. Check out our website at spiritmedianet.com for upcoming projects and broadcasts, and stay up to date with what's happening on the Spirit Media Network. where we're changing the game.
We continue here with Just Saying on the Spirit Media Network. Glad that you are joining us wherever you're listening. We appreciate it. With the podcast, gosh, I mean, all the different places that we are now. I could have never envisioned all the places we're going to be. Let's see, Amazon Music in the podcast section. No, I'm not going to be playing drums or singing, so don't look for me in that particular section of Amazon Music. iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, you name it. We're pretty much on every platform imaginable. And, you know, part of that is when you are self-employed, own your own business, you know, you're kind of responsible for how can we maximize and get out to as many platforms as possible. Our next guest on the KDMC guest line, you know, it's one reason I think that he and I connect as well as we do. He's John Ross Myers. He's the executive editor of the Mississippi Sports Network, owner of the Myers Group, LLC. He joins us now on the KDMC guest line. Being a small business owner, they told you it was going to be fun, right? It was going to be easy peasy. Isn't that what they told you?
They maybe misrepresented some of this in business school to me. I'm sure some of this, you know, I do a little bit of everything today. I've been running a video camera and setting up audio equipment. We had an internet issue I had to track down to figure out what was going on with that. So just a little bit of everything, which I know you're very familiar with how that goes, with a little bit of everything.
And one of the little bit of everything, you know, descriptions, I guess, is you guys just purchased a television station there in North Mississippi, and now you're broadcasting high school football, and we've got an announcement to make about the new TV station you guys acquired. So you're making moves left and right. Tell us about the new TV station and what all you guys are doing.
Yeah, so RCTV 19, it's been headquartered in Ripley, Mississippi. It's been here since, it was 24 years this year. It's been a station. They've actually done high school football for most of that time on a tape delay, you know, where they would just go record the game, have some broadcasters, bring it back to the station, play it, say that Saturday. And so that's how they had always done it. But so we acquired the station, really about, we'll say June 1st. It was towards the end of May, but just we'll say June 1st. And so this high school football season has been the first sports season for us, and we decided to change it over to a live broadcast, and it's been going great, man. We've done we've done a game of the week every week, kind of in our coverage area here in North Mississippi, Tippah County. We were in the Boonville for a game at Northeast Mississippi Community College last week, and we were at Biggersville in Alcorn County the week before that. So just in our little neck of the woods, we kind of pick a game of the week and we go and broadcast it. And so yeah, it's been going. It's an interesting deal with the TV station. It's just a whole different ball game from the type of media that I've previously done, which you kind of mentioned, the website sportsmississippi.com, and then you know we've had some other websites and things of that nature. But as far as just live broadcast, this is our first foray into that. So there's been a learning curve with it for sure.
Now, we do have an announcement to make, and I guess this is, we can let the cat out of the bag, right? This is the first public announcement we have made. So RCTV 19 is one of the newest Audibles affiliates for the show Audibles with yours truly. And you guys, basically, until we get to season 4, you're going to take seasons 1 through 3, and we're going to start airing those here in the next week or so. 2 episodes a week, I think, is what we were talking about. So we're excited about the partnership with you guys, and hope everybody up there enjoys the content. So we're excited to welcome you guys at RCTV 19 onto the Audibles roster, so to speak.
Yes, we're very excited to get that content out to our viewers. You know, you guys do a great job and get a lot of very high quality guests, and so we're very excited to just kind of bring that, and especially because we're leaning heavily into sports programming. Like we do a sports talk show once per week, and we do like I said, the game of the week. And so with our sports programming that we've already gotten committed to and have done, this will just flow really well into that, I believe, with what we do. So yes, we're very excited to get partnered up with you guys, which of course we've talked on and off for a year or two now.
Oh yeah.
Time kind of slips away a little, but so we finally got everything hammered out to bring this to our viewers. So anyway, we're just very excited. About in the next week or so, we're going to have it on our station put out. So it's going to be a good deal for both of us. I can just foresee.
No, without a doubt. He's John Ross Myers, executive editor of the Mississippi Sports Network and owner of the Myers Group, LLC. So before TV became a possibility or even a thought, you guys have been really just killing it with websites, Facebook pages. I mean, one of your Facebook pages has close to 200,000 likes?
We just went over 200,000, which was our goal for 2022. But yes, we've been I've been writing sports since 2002. I started writing for the Daily Mississippian, the student paper there at Ole Miss, and then I was a sports editor for a newspaper in Marion, Arkansas, and I launched my first actual website covering sport, which was northmssports.com way back in the day in 2008. So we were kind of a little ahead of our time, but our latest iteration of sports media, we started in 2013 with Tippah County Sports, which is where I am from. Ripley, Mississippi is in Tippah County. And so, and we just kind of grew it from there. But yeah, we've got our single largest page just went over 200,000 followers. We're at 200,100 some odd Facebook followers. Of course, we do the Twitter and TikTok, and I guess as you know this, we talked about as being a business owner, you got to constantly be adapting and changing to the times to bring new fresh content. So we kind of YouTube and just the whole thing. We try to go where the people are and bring them content there. So that's why we're real excited about getting partnered up with you guys and bringing audibles maybe to a slightly different market up this way than what you've done before. So anyway, we just in the sports media game, we've been doing it a while, but this is our first foray really into this type of media.
Yeah, and I think what you guys are doing with the game of the week, we've talked about that, and that is, you can really look at that as a service for the area, because there's a lot of people that, they're shut in, they can't get out depending on the situation. There's people that maybe they can't get out because their kid is sick or they're sick or they're exhausted, whatever the case is, and they can just flip it on and turn you guys on and watch games from the area right there. And you guys are going to continue to expand this thing as well. And I think it's a service that you guys provide to the folks there in your area. What's been the feedback so far since you purchased the TV station?
It's been really tremendous. We're starting to. So when I bought the station, they didn't have a Facebook page, they didn't have a website. Nothing really linking them to the current times. So we've launched all that, a Twitter account, and so we've gotten great feedback. So August 26th was our first game. That was when football season, kicked off this year. So we've been right at a month, and we've had 1 million minutes watched of our game broadcast. There's been 1 million. We tracked kind of through our software that we live stream and all with. It's been 1 million aggregate minutes watched of our games, which is, that's really far exceeded our expectations for the amount of support that we've gotten. And I do think, kind of like you said, it's a bit of a service, especially in, I guess, today's day and age where people have got 70-inch, like we were at a game, it was raining, and if somebody's got a 70-inch TV at home with surround sound, and they know they can just flip over and watch the game at home. Of course, and we tell people every week, like, if you can come out to the game and support the local team, get out. If you can't do that for whatever reason, tune over to us, follow along with the action. And we got a great camera crew, and we've got two really great broadcasters. One's Owen Peyton Taylor, OPT. He is a future superstar he's already a superstar. He's been doing it for forever. He's worked for me writing for a long time, and he did broadcast for Northeast Mississippi Community College with Blake Long and the team over there. And so he's really good. He just graduated from Ole Miss with a degree in sports media broadcasting, I think. I'm not exactly sure what the term is, but something along the lines of sports media broadcasting. So we're just very excited as we grow to maybe some different areas, because we do stream this via our social channels, and it's on our television station. So we have some room to grow, because we've got a little bit of a statewide audience with social media and our website and those kind of things. So yes, we're very excited about maybe the prospects of growing outside our current confines of where the TV station kind of goes to here.
You guys are continuing to grow, and we're excited about the partnership with RCTV 19. So before I let you get out of here, give out where people can find you. Of course, let's start with RCTV 19. If they want to find you on the web or wherever, yes, of course, they know in that area where to find you on TV, but you've got so many different Facebook pages too. Where can folks find your content?
Yeah, so if you'll just go to Facebook and look up Mississippi Sports, or if you'll actually just Google Mississippi Sports, typically we're the top result, but it's sportsmississippi.com for the statewide audience. But if you want to look up RCTV directly, you can just go to rctv19.com. That's rctv19.com. But all our games are also simultaneously broadcast on our YouTube channel, which is Mississippi Sports Group. So if you're listening out there and you want to check us out on YouTube, you can just go to Mississippi Sports Group or sportsmississippi.com, and you'll be able to find pretty much all of our sports content there. And depending on what part of the state you're in, I mean, so like we run DeSotoCountyNews.com, and Bob Bakken runs that for us up there. He's really good. He does DeSoto County News and DeSoto County Sports. So anyway, just depending on where you're at, most likely you can find us covering stuff in your area. I mean, we've got a pretty large group of contributors that help out throughout the state. So anyway, I like I said, just to kind of wrap things up, super excited about the partnership with you, Jason. I appreciate you getting everything together and helping us, and I look forward to really growing on our partnership from here.
Absolutely. He's John Ross Myers. You just heard where you can find him. Look, they're making moves there with the Mississippi Sports Network. He's the executive editor there. And like you said, just get on Facebook, get on the web, check it out. And they do a great job, and we're so pleased to be partnering with them and RCTV 19 in North Mississippi. So thanks to John for joining us on the KDMC guest line. We will take a break, come back with more in a moment here on the Spirit Media Network.
Hey sports fans, this football season, MDOT wants to ensure you get to your game day destination safely. So before you hit the road to watch your favorite team, be sure to download the MDOT Traffic app. The MDOT Traffic app is free for both Apple and Android devices. And remember to drive smart on the way to the game. That means buckling up, obeying the speed limit, and avoiding distracted driving, especially when traveling in work zones. For more information, follow at Mississippi DOT on Facebook and Twitter.
Wow. Big show. Awesome show. Thanks so much for hanging out with us. Great interviews and a great guest today. We appreciate them joining us by way of the KDMC guest line. Always a good job from those folks. Always like hanging out and catching up with them. Again, college football heavy today. Appreciate you listening to me go on about my dog in the bed earlier. That's just, wasn't ready for that. So, we always need words of encouragement. So before we get out of here today, our word of the day comes from Matthew 7, verse 24. Anyone who listens to my teaching and follows it is wise, like a person who builds a house on solid rock. Our word of the day. A lot of truth in that. What are you building your foundation on? What is your foundation in life, for your personal life, professional life? What is your foundation? Where's your hope? Where do you run to when things get crazy? When things get overwhelming? Where do you run to? What are you building your house on? The house is your life. What are you building your life on? What is the foundation? Because there's going to be moments in life where the winds of life, the storms of life, it's going to get rocky, and it's going to toss you from side to side, and that's just part of life. It's going to get messy. It's going to get overwhelming. It's going to be troubling at times, especially the world that we live in nowadays. So what are you basing your foundation on? What are you building your house on? What is that foundation? You got to ask yourself that question. So hopefully you're building it on a foundation of faith. That's certainly what we believe in here at the Spirit Media Network. We don't shy away from that. We build our foundation on faith in Christ. Our foundation is firmly built on faith in Him. We don't get to do what we do without Him. It's that simple. Even if we weren't attaching it to not being able to do what we do professionally, there's days you can't get out of bed. Seriously. I mean, we've all been there. There's days you don't feel like getting out of bed unless you've got something to hang on to, an anchor point, a foundation, and everyone needs that. And for us, our foundation is Jesus Christ. It's that simple. So I hope you've got some encouragement from that. Hope you've enjoyed the show, and appreciate you guys for listening. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Spirit Media Network. Check out our show Audibles with yours truly. We encourage you to do that. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Subscribe to this podcast. And like our Facebook page as well. We've got 2 Facebook pages, Spirit Media Network and Audibles with JS, standing for Audibles with Jason Scarborough. You hear Sam in the background with the ball? Yeah, he's ready to go throw it. So time for me to go do doggy duty. That didn't sound right either. Time for me to go do doggy duty. That's kind of weird. So we'll see you next time, folks. Have a great weekend, a safe weekend. Continued prayers for the folks in Florida, everyone in the path of this storm as it continues to make its path inland. So we'll see you next time, folks. Have a great weekend. Be safe. God bless you. We'll see you next time on Just Sayin' right here on the Spirit Media Network.
Thanks for listening to Just Sayin' with Jason Scarborough, produced and recorded by the Spirit Media Network. Check us out on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or the TuneIn Radio app. We'll see you next time for more thought-provoking commentary right here on Just Sayin' with Jason Scarborough.